a new digital marketing playbook. I had a little fun with this topic, with the plays and whatnot, and hopefully by the end of this, you guys will get a good sense of what's new in the way of digital marketing. What are folks trying out there? Some savvy marketers really trying to get more out of their marketing dollars, and hopefully you'll have a good sense of what's possible out there, and more importantly, what's not working anymore. So let's go ahead and dive right into some housekeeping items first. The number one question we always get on these webinars are the slides available? Yes. Feel free to reach out at results@webmarketing123.com. And on that note, please help make this webinar a success, and feel free to ask any questions via the Q&A chat box. We do have a lot of analysts standing by to answer very detailed, very specific questions, so feel free to reach out. We are active in social media. Feel free to reach out at @webmarketing123, facebook.com/webmarketing123, and Google+, simply webmarketing123. And at any stage, should you want a detailed kind of consultation, and on that note, we'll see if we have time at the end of this webinar to do some live kind of website audits, if you will, and I'll ask for your URL and a keyword you want to rank for, and we'll take a look at what entails in that consultation. It's free of charge. A lot of folks get a lot of insights on their website, their competition, what are they doing so well that Google loves their website versus your own. So feel free to reach out at results@webmarketing123.com. We'd be happy to have that complimentary consultation with you. A little bit about us. So oftentimes we get a lot of questions. So what is it that you guys do? You guys hold these educational webinars. You give us a lot of information. What is it that you actually do? So we run SEO organic campaigns for companies. Oftentimes they'll reach out and say, hey guys, here's 10 keywords. I know it's costing me a bundle of money to not show up for these terms, and just have fun with it. Report on a regular basis and that sort of thing. So we do run those types of campaigns. We run some paid and display campaigns as well, so PPC, SEM campaigns, if you will. Some folks run some social media campaigns with us where we do the kind of posting of Facebook and Twitter and community management, if you will. We do run some kind of website design projects as well, making sure, getting out of search engine friendly content management system like a WordPress or Drupal or something like that. And we do run some international campaigns. And this last thing, custom measurement and attribution. So we've been able to kind of tie your investment dollars to actual return on investment, getting analytics in your CRM systems kind of talking to one another, which has really been kind of a really good value add for a lot of folks where, before historically that might have just been looking at traffic to your website or hits to your site and ranking increases. For us it's a means to an end. It's, you invested $5K, you should have gotten at least $5,001 in return based off that outlay. So these are some of the things that we have been working on. We've been doing this since 2004, so in our space that's quite a long time, and really what we feel is kind of the differentiator. There's a sea of companies that do this stuff out there. Ours is really kind of that data-driven strategy. It starts with the business research, the strategy, going to the custom scorecards, and then the attribution side of things, so tying your investment dollars to actual return. Been recognized based off of this work, Inc. 500, top 10, the various fastest companies, and we've worked with some companies that you might have recognized. All right, enough about us. Let's talk a little bit about how folks are starting to look at their digital marketing kind of sales funnel, if you will. And whether you're a B2B company or a B2C company, we encourage a lot of folks to look at your sales funnel a lot like that, in a funnel. And for some of you folks out there, you might have heard of this kind of serious decision demand waterfall. This is a simplified version of it. I actually think that they had a couple steps in there that not unnecessary steps, but that's a little bit harder to understand for folks that are newer to this concept. And we look at our clients' websites a lot like this, their sales funnel, where we look at, okay, how many people are coming into the top of the funnel? And really we live right here, where we drive more kind of top-line traffic via inbound marketing channels. That's SEO, SEM, social media, these types of strategies where we ask our clients a lot of tough questions, and we say, okay, guys, how many raw leads do you guys need on a monthly, quarterly basis in order to hit your sales targets for the quarter and for the year? And you'd be surprised at the number of marketers that don't have this information. And for legitimate reasons. Their content management system's wonky. They don't have enough bandwidth in order to track this stuff. And usually it's about bandwidth. They just don't have the time, resources, that sort of thing. But when you look at it, it's very important that you understand your sales funnel. And some folks, they know exactly how many raw leads they need to get, and there's a natural rate at which people become marketing qualified and sales accepted and become actual opportunities. And oftentimes one of the biggest revelations that we find in working with folks is that we help them kind of get a good sense of what are your current rates and is that good or bad. In other words, for every 100 people that reach your website, how many actually fill out that form? If it's less than 1%, there's probably a problem there, and in the way of, we don't have good calls to actions on the website, they're not clearly placed, that sort of thing. So we optimize around that. But the point being is, you should be able to, if you head up your kind of digital marketing for your company right now, you should very much have answers to these questions. The percent at which folks move through your sales funnel process, and oftentimes folks will say, oh, we have a 24-month sales cycle, it's super complex, but there's a rate at which people go through that funnel process, and we should have a really good sense at that percent at which they go through this. And as we go through this webinar and we talk about the new Digital Marketing Playbook, it all hinges on this sales funnel. The more people you get into the top of that sales funnel, the more you're going to get at the bottom in the way of closed business. And we help a lot of companies, one, identify what the current kind of conversion rate processes are, and then optimize each one of those sales funnels so that you get more business out of this investment called digital marketing. All right, and again, we impact that pre-acquisition metrics like click-through rate and conversion rate to grow that funnel via inbound marketing channels. And in talking about kind of how much we've evolved from the old digital marketing playbook, and a lot of folks are becoming savvier and savvier with their marketing dollars, and it's amazing how far we've come with digital marketing. And we had a little fun using the Wayback Machine. It's a tool where you're able to look at websites and actually get the older version of of their website. And so this is what Google looked like back in 1999. It hasn't changed too much, but it's kind of funny to see that in Apple, how far they've come in terms of their progression and investing dollars and that sort of thing. I thought we'd have a little fun here. This was actually the first kind of banner ad that was run by Modem Media, which is an agency, and it was run on hotwire.com. And just a quick poll, really quick. Type in the Q&A chat. If you were to guess what the click-through rate was based off of this ad, have you ever clicked your mouse right here? And that essentially was the banner ad that they were, not telling you what you'd get or that sort of thing, but it was a new type of tactic. Go ahead and type in what you think the click-through rate was. So Ty thinks it was 90%. Well, that's high. 33%. Kofi, you think that was the click-through rate? Beth, 75%. Jerry, 80%. Stephanie thinks it was 1%. Closest so far is 33% by Kofi. So it was actually a 44% click-through rate. 44%, which was unheard of, and it doesn't really necessarily tell you what you're going to get, does it? It was more, hey, this is a new thing, and it actually performed quite well. Now, what I can't say, what was the cost per acquisition based off of that? True, got a bunch of clicks and it probably ate up a ton of budget, but point being is we've evolved. We've come so far in just the last 10 years. And what excites me being in this space is where are we going to be 10 years from now, where it's more behavioral targeting, and we're starting to see that shift today. And let's first identify, well, what was if we're talking about what the new digital marketing playbook is, what was the old one? And let's really break down. We had a little fun with this, almost like a formation in football here. You got SEO, you got paid search, you got email, you got display, social media, and you got your website. All right, who's your quarterback, if you will? And let's talk about how things have evolved. And when we talk about SEO, we'll break down each one of these and what they're good for, based off of kind of what we do for our clients. And really what you should be thinking of is each one of these as a lever that you pull based off of increasing that top line number, right? The number you get in the top of the funnel, number of inquiries, because you have that natural rate at which people go through and convert. And a lot of folks, it was enough. It was enough to get that consultant to do that one-time optimization, and and they mess with the meta tags and meta keywords, and some folks even took it so far as putting the white text in the white background. Google's a kind of text reader and that sort of thing, and they would find ways to game the system. And you may or may not have hired that India company to place 200 links that you're probably kicking yourself now for doing, but you might have done one or two of those things. And again, you'd be surprised at some of the companies I've talked to, big, well-known brands that, they're like, well, yeah, I'm guilty of that. And it was enough, that there was enough to do these minor things and really see a big lift in terms of performance. And for paid search, targeting was available, but it wasn't all that robust, and there weren't all that many channels to do it through. Email, you may have done some audience segmentation, but it certainly wasn't as robust as it is now. And we'll talk about what robust means in the new digital marketing playbook. And for your website, you might have had to contact us in the upper right, and you did the best practice and you put your phone number in the upper right-hand corner. You updated the website maybe once a year, and you were lucky if you had some downloadable content. And hopefully you gated it and asking for name and email and that sort of thing. In terms of display, you had to go directly to the publishers, like Forbes.com, for instance. And I got to tell you, they were not interested in your performance. And we'll talk about how that's evolved here. And you had limited optimization kind of capabilities with your display. And with social media, Facebook, Twitter, these things didn't really exist all that well, or they were in their infancy. And blogs and forums and comments, that was the extent of social media. And you engage kind of prospects through offline events and promotion. So this is, and some folks, unfortunately, they're still doing a lot of this. Again, you'd be surprised at how many people I talk to where they say, yeah, we did SEO that one time. It was kind of a checkbox. You went through the website redesign process. They meta tagged some things, and they called it a day. And it's not good enough anymore. And especially when you realize what's costing your business to not dominate, not to own the web, it then becomes very much a problem. So this was enough back in the day, and times have changed, and a lot of folks are getting savvier and savvier about it. But why is it not? Why is this not good enough anymore? The first thing we see is competitors are getting smarter, and they're getting increasingly savvy with their digital marketing strategies. And oftentimes when we talk to folks, it's not, oh, hey, there's a ton of low-hanging fruit there. No one's optimizing their website. You just gotta, you just gotta tag your pages with the meta tags and that sort of thing, and you should be good. And some folks that was enough, but now it's like, all right, you are playing in a competitive space. You're selling financial software, and everyone and their mothers has someone who's either in-house or hired an agency, and that's the realities now. And SEO is simply a cost. Digital marketing, SEO, PPC, and social media is simply a cost of doing business these days. You have to. That's something that has to be in the budget. It's no longer a nice-to-have item. And I can source a ton of new studies that come out that say folks are looking to increase their budgets tenfold going into 2013. And for a lot of our clients that we work with, that's exactly the plan. We have our quarterly business reviews, and we say, hey guys, here's they give us their goals, and we say, okay, here's what you need to do in order to hit those goals. There's traffic to be had on SEO. We just need to tweak our titles, get some more content, and some natural link building. And it becomes more of a, let's pull different levers accordingly in order to hit those revenue goals, those number of leads we need in order to hit those targets. Advertisers are more empowered now. They're more advanced. Tracking and execution tools are becoming more and more prevalent. Even within your content management system, there's a plugin for a lot of stuff these days, assuming that you're on a search engine kind of friendly CMS like a WordPress or Drupal or something like that. And God bless you if you're on a homegrown CMS and you're kind of kicking yourself. You can't change page titles, you can't change URLs, and they look like a big math equation, and you realize you probably have a problem. This third point here. Google's fighting for users, and we use our words carefully there. They're not doing this just to stick it to the marketers out there who are they're honest to goodness, they're just trying to get by and hit their goals and that sort of thing. But put yourself in Google's shoes for a second. Their end goal is to match the searcher's query with the right content, and right content can be broken down into several things. It's a value add to that searcher. The last thing Google wants to do is return someone who's trying to game the system's results, and it doesn't read well. It's not optimized for that search term that that person did searches for, and it's no wonder that they're cracking down on this because they're fighting for the user. And when we look at our clients' campaigns, we do that. We put ourselves in Google's shoes, and we say, okay, what's going to incentivize them to return our page higher than our competitors? And we break down that strategy. And again, I'll go over a kind of a live site analysis example towards the end of this webinar. And why don't we kind of bookmark it now in order to look at some websites and keywords. So if you'd like to have your website analyzed towards the end of this webinar, just put in the number one keyword you want to rank for and your URL, and we'll go ahead and see if we can get to it towards the end of this webinar. And we'll show you exactly how we'll look at kind of your tactics right now, why you're not ranking for that keyword, who is, and how they did it. And then finally, this last point, it's more and more because folks are starting to see return from digital marketing, and they're able to track it all the way to their return on investment. They're starting to see, okay, well, if I got an 8x return on investment based off of SEO, and I only got a 4x return on investment based off of my trade shows, gosh, it just makes business sense to invest more in this thing called digital. And so we're starting to see more users and advertisers spend more time, more money across more platforms and across devices. So it's not just enough to checkbox SEO. I did that one time. It's a monthly iterative process. And not only does it need to perform well on PCs and laptops, it also needs to perform well on mobile devices and iPads and this sort of thing. So this is why the old digital marketing playbook isn't quite as effective as it once was. And I think it's also important to note kind of the customer journey has changed. How people use search engines and how their kind of path to purchase has changed a lot. And this is actually a newer tool that Google came out with. And if you're new to this, I'm actually going to jump off the webinar and kind of interact with this tool so you guys get a sense of exactly what it's telling us. So let's walk through it really quickly. So these are the path to purchase. So in other words, people start their journey here. So it's awareness, consideration, intent, and then finally the decision. And that decision is either purchase in the way of, hey, I added that in my shopping cart and I actually hit checkout, or it's I went to the website, I filled out a form, and I hit submit, and that's a conversion or a lead, if you will, so a raw inquiry. And what Google has done is they've tracked not only across the sales funnel, but they've broken it down by not only demographic, but also by industry. So we can look at tech versus business versus consumer packaged goods companies. And again, we'll interact with this tool in a second. But the reason I introduce this is to give folks a sense that each one of these levers, so display advertising, social media, email, there's our paid search, there's our organic, direct visit. They all play a role within your customers, your prospects' purchase path. And to be clear here, the numbers, and there's an explanation on what this legend is, but essentially the higher the number, so 3 for display advertising, the more it was more of a assisting marketing channel. Whereas the closer the number is to 0, is the more it was more of a last interaction type of item. And this makes sense, right? You introduce a lot of people via your display advertising, right? Because it's more of disruptive type of advertising. I'm on a website, I'm on the New York Times, and all of a sudden you're telling me that, you know, you got a very cheap voice system for small to medium-sized businesses. You know, I wasn't on Google doing searches for small business VoIP systems, which would be awesome to rank for, by the way. But you know, I was on New York Times, I was reading a blog, and I clicked on a banner ad. So more disruptive advertising, and so it makes sense that it acts more as an awareness tool. Whereas, hey, you know, if I'm going through that decision, it's a high-ticket item, right? You know, making the decision on a VoIP system, it's, you know, it's not something I'm going to make lightly. You know, I'm going to do some research, and I might click on your social ads, I might get an email, I might click on a paid ad, I might go to organic search, but ultimately I'm probably going to type in, you know, yoursite.com as a direct visit, and then finally fill out that form or go through that purchase path. So it's helpful to then look at this and say, okay, you know, each one of these has its purpose in that decision process, that decision kind of criteria path. And so I promised you we would look at that actual tool, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up right now. And I'm going to drag it over here so we can see it. And here it is. Feel free to, and again, we're going to make the slides available, and we're recording this webinar, so you can either type in a customer journey to online purchase, and Google's top result is this right here. It's this tool where you're able to look at and break it down by, and I'm going to highlight it for you folks so you can see exactly where it is right here, broken down by geography and by industry. So let's say, for instance, I'm in the consumer packaged good space within the U.S., and I'm targeting U.S. So now, and notice it changed kind of based off of the reality. So Google tracks this information, and they'll say, hey, you know what, you should use display advertising, and it's no wonder that it's not kind of showing that return on investment, because it's not the last thing folks do before they fill out a form, right? So you should expect it as more of an introducing type of marketing channel. And you know, email is the same thing, and social. You know, a lot of folks say, oh, what's your ROI on social media? Well, the reason it's not is because it's not the last thing folks do before they fill out a form or convert or go to that purchase decision. So you should have different criteria for how you decide whether or not social is meaningful or impactful for your business. And that's why folks look at metrics like ROE, return on engagement. As much as I hate that term because it's fuzzy in my mind, you can't help but kind of gravitate to those sorts of things, because it's not the last thing folks do before they do that purchase. So again, feel free to play around with this tool. You can break it down by industry, and often it's really a revelation. You know, if you have a boss where they're like, oh, you know, they're old school in nature, oh, you know, folks don't turn to the web to do searches on servo motors. You know, it's kind of an old guys club, and you know, it's who you know, and we sell them on the golf course. You know, that's not how folks. Yeah, it's not how folks use search engines these days. And in fact, they'd be surprised at how many people actually do turn to search engines and type in, you know, the terms that describe exactly what you do and sell and offer. And it might just open some eyes on how each one of these channels helps kind of introduce and the last thing that folks do before actually becoming a paying customer. All right, so let's get back to the webinar here. All right, so if we talked a little bit about what the old playbook is, what is the new playbook? Now that we know that each one of these levers has its place within that decision kind of purchase path of your prospects. You know, we discovered that display advertising is more of an introducer, whereas direct traffic and people typing in directly is more of that last thing folks do. And SEO is more towards the last thing folks do. People do turn to search engines right before they're deciding to fill out that form or add your product to their shopping cart. So let's break down exactly what we're seeing in terms of what does this new digital marketing playbook consist of? Again, breaking down each one of these levers. So nowadays, because Google's cracking down on their algorithm changes, if it's penguin one month, it's panda the next, and they'll have some other zoo animal here next month in order to change the game on folks. And it really requires a comprehensive on-page and off-page kind of content creation process. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're hearing content is king all the time, and the percent at which advertisers are investing in new content creation that isn't, kind of keyword stuff, but, honest to goodness, a value add to that to that person, and they're willing to link to it naturally. And there is a way to and we do run campaigns like that where, content creation is part of it, and it's still keyword rich to a degree, but it's also structured such that it gets us better ranking for the keywords we want to. And then this other thing called social signals are important. Google has not invested millions upon millions in Google Plus just to let it kind of sit on the wayside. No, they flat out said that when we look at our natural search results, this is Google talking. When we look at our natural search results, we do take into account social signals like linking your Google Plus profile to your blog, for instance, or to your website. And authorship is becoming more important now, and they want people to vouch for the content that they generate. And they want to give advertisers credit for this unique content. And the way you do that is by linking your Google Plus profile to your either blog or website to get credit for that. And then again, the constant algorithm changes. If you optimize that one time with that one consultant, in 2010, it's time to then pick up the pieces again and say, okay, what has happened in the last 3 years? How many algorithm changes? Maybe putting keywords in your meta keywords wasn't good enough. It's time to kind of revisit this thing, and it might make sense to get some help with it. And then this thing called link diversification. So Google, it's no surprise, Google recognizes each and every link on the web and who links back to you, how often they do it, and how they do it. You can see these reports within Google Webmaster Tools. If it's the first time you're hearing this, then I would seriously reconsider your current strategy. But there's a report within Google Analytics where you're able to interact with Google and say, okay, how many people link to you? How often do they do so? And is it helping or not? And so it's a little weird if you get a bunch of links from one source, like press releases. Now, rewind about 2 or 3 years ago, it was enough to get a bunch of links in your press releases, put a bunch within your boilerplate, and put it on PR Web. And to some degree, believe it or not, some of that, there's still validity in it, but so long as it diversifies your link portfolio. We say look at your link portfolio like your financial portfolio. To mitigate risk, you diversify. So too should you diversify when you reach out to get links to your website. The reason folks reach out to an agency to help because we work with a bunch of other advertisers and companies and bloggers and mommy bloggers. We help facilitate that linking, that linking to where it's natural and it's value added. The next part of what this new digital marketing playbook looks like, so kind of paid search campaigns. There's such advancements in kind of just even Google AdWords alone, where you're able to target by geography, by zip codes, by personas, if you will. You're able to say you only want to do advertising to a small group of folks who are interested, kind of content-based types of advertising. You can do such robust campaigns, and I would say all of these are a means to an end, so long as it hits your kind of willingness to pay for a lead or for a sale. And if I were to ask you, how much are you willing to pay for a raw lead? You should have those answers, and if you don't, that's the benefit of working with a company like ours. We help you kind of with these answers. Some folks say, Mike, I'm willing to pay $60 on a cost per subscription basis, and if you can get me leads at less than that, it just makes business sense. So all of these are kind of a means to an end, so long as it hits your business goals. That is, how many raw leads do you need in order to hit your quarterly, yearly goals? How many monthly do you need? So it all should be based off of those metrics. Email campaigns. There's this thing called marketing automation that's popping up. You got Pardot, you got Acton, you got Marketo, you got Eloqua, Silverpop. All these guys are popping up left and right. Pardot, and you don't know which one to go with, and ultimately there's pros and cons with each one of these things. I run webinars on kind of pros and cons of each one of them in terms of search engine optimization, tracking this stuff through the sales funnel, and some make it easy, some make it hard as heck in order to talk to your CRM system. And I'm sure for some of you folks you're probably chuckling because you're going through this process right now. But we definitely have experience in kind of getting the systems to talk to one another, so you can report an honest to goodness, hey, here's the business impact based off my marketing dollars that I've invested. On the website front, frequently updated web pages and blog posts, and there's more advanced analytics and site personalization plugins out there, and this thing called A/B testing that you should be doing. And there's super easy tools out there to help you facilitate this. We use a tool called Optimizely, where you're able to kind of test one version versus another. And the end goal there is to increase your conversion rates. For every 100 people that reach your website, what % do they convert? And another benefit of kind of working with an agency like us is we know what good looks like. We know for B2B campaigns where form fill-outs is the name of the game, if you're converting at less than 1%, you have a call to action problem. You should be testing in order to increase that conversion rate. Because if you get a higher conversion rate, if you double that to 2%, you'd be amazed at what happens to your return on investment at the end of that kind of natural waterfall process. Display advertising, there's, the online advertising industry has scaled. Ad network partners, ad networks partner with hundreds of websites to get you a ton of reach. And optimization has become necessary so that advertisers see performance and continue to work with that vendor. So you have this thing called real-time RTB, real-time bidding, and there's a ton of optimization capabilities. And back in the day where you would just go to Forbes and say, it's all about impressions. It's not about impressions anymore. It's about the return that you're getting and on a cost per lead basis and that sort of thing. So it's becoming a lot more evolved. In social media, there's a lot of listening tools out there, sentiment tools. You hear Lithium and all these other Hootsuite and all these other kind of systems out there. And really, it's to empower your advocates and to earn those natural links. And recall back to that customer journey that we looked at. We shouldn't be surprised that social media isn't the last thing that your prospects do before filling out that web form or adding that widget to their cart. It's more of that kind of influencer through that decision kind of purchase path, and you should be looking at these channels like that. And we had a little fun. You got the website pass into the SEO there. Good fun with that marketing. So, and again, you should be thinking of these as levers. And so a question that you should be asking yourself is how many levers are you pulling right now? And are you coordinating across these channels? And I think a good place to start is to look at that Google tool and say, okay, how do each one of these channels really assist that kind of customer decision process? And kind of look at one, in their own right as contributing to that process. And some folks, they just do paid right now. They say SEO, I don't know, it's a bunch of hooey, I don't understand it. And some, they're just doing a social campaign and email. And there's a time and place for each one of these. But again, going back to that kind of serious decision demand waterfall graph, your end goal is, and I care less about, which one of these levers we pull, so long as we get the number of raw inquiries needed in order to get X amount of form fill-outs or people adding that widget to their cart. That's how you should be looking at this. And so it should start with, all right, guys, I need 150 monthly form fill-outs in order to get X amount of marketing accepted, marketing qualified, in order to get X amount of sales out of this. And breaking down each one of these, we use SEO to attract and capture in-market customers. This isn't someone on New York Times, for instance, where you put a disruptive banner in front of them, and there's a time and place for that. This is someone who's typing in, best VoIP system for SMB companies. They're raising their hand, and notice that they're not typing in brand specific. This is an honest-to-goodness person who is not brand kind of, they're brand neutral. And that's why it becomes super important to be visible for these types of keywords. And it's no surprise, 90% of clicks happen on page one. And even more, within those top few positions, you got to be visible within those top few. That's where the majority of clicks happen. And you use paid search when you don't rank well for the keywords that make sense to your business naturally. And we're going to go over a slide here that hopefully helps you to identify when you should be doing both. And a question we get all the time is, hey guys, we rank really well organic for these keywords. Why should we also pay for them at the same time? Because a concern they have is that they're cannibalizing their organic listing by also bidding on that keyword. And there's kind of a slide that I like to go through, in order to help kind of demystify when you should be doing both. And let's walk through this. And I put a link to it. It's on kind of Google's research blog. And let's talk, and it can be a little confusing, but let's walk through this so it's clear. So what Google did is they worked with advertisers, and they said, how many clicks, how many incremental clicks did you get when you were running ads versus when you were not running ads? And the answer, and kind of the size of this kind of object here represents clicks. So when they were running ads, they got more clicks versus when they were not running ads. But the answer really depended on where did they rank organically for that particular keyword. And let me be clear. So what this study found, and this was a Google study, not us polling our clients, this is Google. And what they said was, if you ranked within the top position, #1 organically, that the click incrementality when you were running paid ads was 50%. In other words, when you were not running ads, you got 100 clicks. When you were running ads, you got 150. So another way to look at that is, well, maybe 50% of those were cannibalized. So I was ranking #1 and I was bidding on that keyword. I had a 50% cannibalization rate. However, if I was ranking for those, if I was ranking in positions 2 through 4 organically for that same keyword that I was bidding on, 82% of clicks were incremental, meaning 18% were cannibalized types of clicks. And then finally, if you do not rank within the top 5 positions organically, it makes a ton of sense to bid on these keywords because 96% were incremental, meaning there was only a 4% cannibalization rate. So hopefully this makes sense, and and hopefully this helps answer some of those questions. I used to run kind of an in-house campaign, and one of the questions my boss always asked me was, we're bidding on these keywords. Do we really need to be bidding on them? And now I can point to some and say, hey, unless we're ranking #1 for that keyword, it absolutely makes sense to bid on them. All the way to the point where it makes sense so long as it's hitting my cost per lead and cost per acquisition numbers. So what this doesn't tell us is, okay, well, I was bidding on them, but what was I paying on a cost per click basis, on a cost per lead, on a cost per acquisition basis? But at least it answers the question, hey, unless, if I'm not ranking #1 for a keyword, I got to be bidding on these keywords, as long as it makes business sense. Hopefully that's helpful. So we use display in order to get in front of new or previously lost prospects. And again, display, Google Display Network, that sort of thing. You're on the New York Times, and they see a banner advertisement, that sort of thing. We're talking to some folks right now where they're developing a new product where not a lot of people know about it. So it makes sense. Not a ton of people are searching for it. So the only kind of option they have is to kind of put their product in front of folks and say, hey, did you know that you can pay your bill via your cell phone? And not only just any bill, but all your bills in one location on your cell phone. So, that's kind of the thought process we're going through, and we're saying, okay, well, it might make sense to go on these websites and let them know via banner advertisements that, hey, there is this possibility. So we should be aware, though, that the conversion rate is going to be a little bit lower because these people weren't actively searching for how to pay my bills on my cell phone. No, they were they're on a website, they're on a blog, and this is more of a disruptive advertisement type of strategy. But if there's no search volume, you don't have a choice but to do something like this. And what we normally recommend with this type of strategy is that you also do some remarketing with it as well. Meaning, let's say they clicked on that banner advertisement, went to your website and said, oh, that's interesting, and then left your website, didn't fill out the form or convert. What you can then do is serve up some reminders. Hey, you were once on our website. In fact, here's a spiff in order to actually go through that conversion process. Get a frisbee, a free frisbee with it, or whatever that thing is. But again, these are means to an end. So long as it's in line with what you're willing to pay on a cost per lead, on a cost per click, and a cost per acquisition basis, then it makes sense to pull these levers. And the idea is, and again, we kind of put a visual here. They're on Google. They click on an ad. They go to your website, and they leave. That's the remarketing piece to it. Then they go back to your website. Same thing with LinkedIn. Right? So they're on LinkedIn, and you can run some LinkedIn ads. They go to your website. You cookie them. They leave. You remind them. Then they come back. That's how retargeting, remarketing can be highly effective. And some advertisers, we've seen it perform. We were able to get leads at 1/3 of the cost of normal channels, so it can be quite impactful. And to kind of further highlight the need for advanced type of kind of advertising that we're starting to see with some of the clients that we work with, is this idea of dynamic, creative, kind of more segmentation on your retargeting campaign. So this was one done by Travelocity, where we have their traditional retargeting ad on the left-hand side here, where it was low fares on hundreds of airlines, book now. Yeah, that's not as targeted as, let's say, for instance, I'm a consumer. I went to Travelocity's website, not only on their website, but I was looking at flights from Orlando to San Francisco. And what they did was they cookied me as having been in that demographic, and they said, okay, let's serve them up reminders regardless of where he's at on the web. And let's remind them that, hey, you can get low fares on flights from Orlando to San Francisco. And in fact, by doing this type of targeting, that click-through rate went up by 651%. So you can get really targeted on your kind of display advertising in conjunction with a smart retargeting campaign to, again, increase that click-through rate. Again, this isn't saying how many people actually converted, but at least at least we're able to look at that first function, which is you got to get them back to the website. And then finally, you use the website to, for a variety of things. You improve your visibility and rankings and user experience. You amplify the effectiveness of your marketing program, so improving the ROI. Maximize conversions from anywhere, including mobile, and ideally use it to capture and sell information. And this last part down here, I'm in a unique position, and I talk to a lot of folks at different stages of their marketing across verticals. And some folks, they still use their website more like an online brochure. They, based off their trade show activity, they kind of send folks to the website and that sort of thing. But more and more folks are starting to realize that, hey, their website can be used as a lead generation, kind of an honest-to-goodness lead generation and selling tool. And there's kind of a progression in order to get there, and you don't go from kind of crawling to sprinting overnight. And we work with a lot of companies and helping them get up and running, starting to think about using their website as lead generation. And even if you're, a seasoned pro out there, and you know exactly what your conversion rates are and your click-through rates and your cost per lead, we work on pretty robust campaigns where we make improvements on that. And that as you increase those conversion rates and the rate at which people go into the top of the funnel, it just makes business sense to kind of tackle it that way. What we're starting to see is, a lot of folks, they still don't have this right in terms of clear calls to actions on their website, and this 3-second rule is very important. There's a book done not too long ago called Don't Make Me Think. And essentially what it was, if you're on a website, the folks are fickle these days. They're constantly consuming information, and it's got to be very clear what exactly that information is, what you want me to do. And an exercise we like to play with our clients' websites is the 3-second rule. If it's not clear within 3 seconds or less what you want me to do on any given web page, the tendency for me to leave that web page seriously increases. So look at your as an exercise, look at your home page, look at your category level pages, look at your product level pages, and ask yourself, is it clear within 3 seconds or less what you want me to do? And if it's not, you have a conversion problem. Meaning, the more you increase that conversion rate, the more top of the funnel action you get, the more bottom of the funnel action you get. So this is a good exercise I encourage everyone to go through. And then from a mobile device standpoint, and this is, I'm hesitant to bring this one up simply because it's kind of a buzz catchphrase these days, with agencies. Do you have a mobile optimized site? And really, I like to take the approach of first asking yourself, is it a problem today? Before you go down that path of doing responsive designs and liquid layouts and the whole kind of process and to-do list that comes about based off of making your website mobile optimized. And the only way you can do that, and you should have analytics on your website, whether you have Site Catalyst or Google Analytics or whatever it is. What I consult folks in doing is first asking yourself, do I have a mobile device problem? Meaning, from traffic that comes from mobile devices, whether it's iPads or iPhones, how are people currently engaging with the website? And how does that compare to the site average? Or how does that compare to laptop and PC type of traffic? And to share a story, we've actually gone through that process of making our website mobile friendly. So if you go to Web Marketing 123, or even better, do a search for SEO company, we rank fairly well for that keyword. And go to our website, and you'll see that it's mobile friendly. And we just went through this process. And essentially we benchmarked and we said, okay, well, how are mobile users currently interacting with our website? And how does that compare to the site average? And it turned out that for every 100 people that reached our homepage, we had a 60% bounce rate. Meaning for every 100 people, only 40 went on to another page, 60 of them left after leaving the homepage. So to us, we said, hey, that's a problem because our PC traffic only bounces at 30%. So we have a problem there. And, of course, we looked at conversions based off of mobile devices. And, the jury's still out on whether or not people are going on an iPhone, doing a search for, servo motor or, best VoIP, SMB companies and actually, clicking on the form and filling out a form. I think the jury's still on that. But it is a good way to introduce people on that customer journey path, right? Oftentimes it's easier to get ranking on mobile devices. Because a lot of folks haven't gravitated towards that type of strategy yet. So before I would say, go down to the mobile optimized version, first ask yourself, do you have a problem? And if you have problems on kind of identifying, uncovering those type of metrics, as part of the free consultation, what we can do is bring up your Google Analytics on the fly and help you pull out, kind of tease out those metrics to see, okay, you might have a mobile device problem. And then kind of optimization of content and regular analytics review. So this is all part of that new playbook that we're starting to see as being kind of moving the needle for folks. And this idea of A/B testing on that website front. I mentioned that you should have some type of A/B testing strategy or plan. And by that I mean all for your SEO activity as well as your PPC activity. And this was some kind of real metrics that I'm sharing based off of a client we work with, where we use Optimizely. It's an A/B testing platform where we tracked what were the before metrics, and then what was it after our A/B test was completed. And before, they had 3,000 visits, they had a 60% bounce rate and a 2% conversion rate. So they got 24 leads, and this was pre-optimization. After we did some A/B testings in the way of, and we like to keep them simple A/B tests. If you get down to the multivariate stage, you really need a lot of traffic in order to be significantly, kind of statistically significant. And we like to use high confidence intervals on the 90% range. So after doing some A/B testing in the way of moving calls to actions, removing fields on the form, this sort of thing, we saw a 20% increase in visitors. So again, think of that funnel again, right? The more you put on the top of the funnel, the more comes at the end of the funnel. And there's various stages at which we can do quote-unquote optimizations. And by having clear ad copy both on our PPC landing pages and on the actual website itself, more people stayed on the site. So we decreased our bounce rate by 17%, and then we doubled our conversion rate. And there's a kind of slew of items that we could talk about in order to increase your conversion rate. One, you look at your forms. Are you asking for just a ton of information? So put yourself in your prospect's shoes. The likelihood of them filling out 50 fields, while I totally get that your VP of sales and head of sales needs all the information in order to put in the CRM system, put yourself in your prospect's shoes. Let's test this stuff to see exactly, do we really need their fax number? Probably not. And then again, the increase, the 3-second rule. Is it clear within 3 seconds or less what you want me to do on any given web page? If not, you probably have a conversion rate problem. And so based off of optimizations, we double the conversion rate. And so if you look at the difference at the end of this, we got a 200% increase in leads. Now, going back to that serious decision waterfall, if you increase your leads by 200%, ask yourself, what would that have? Would you hit your revenue goals, your pipeline revenue goals for the quarter and for the year? That's the kind of the power that this type of kind of testing can have on your campaigns. And then going back to social media, and the reason I bring back this process is a lot of folks, I feel they're asking too much out of their social media campaigns right now, and they're not clear on exactly what the goal of their social programs are. And it's to engage prospects and customers that are early on in the consideration stages and awareness stages of their intent to purchase. So I think that now that you have that sense and know where it fits, and again, go to that Google tool and look at your industry and see how social, how display, how organic search helps either assist people to conversion, or is it helping them with the last thing that they do. Don't take my word for it. Use some Google tools. That's how you're going to get buy-in from your senior leadership. And then as part of this new playbook, we're seeing kind of content creation, especially with Google's recent algorithm changes in Panda and Penguin. Using your content as a means to get better ranking for your keywords that make sense for your business is becoming more and more important. Again, we run campaigns where oftentimes one of the biggest rubs we work with folks is they don't have the bandwidth to create this content. We have in-house folks that help with that content creation process that's honest to goodness value add for your consumers, and we reach out to folks to say, hey, it looks like your readers would benefit from this content that we've generated, where you still can use it for SEO purposes, but you need to know your keywords first. So one of the first steps that we do in working with folks is we do a robust keyword expansion process, and we say, what are all the terms that make sense? Let's boil the ocean and consolidate it down to a core list of 50 to 100 terms that's going to move the needle for your business. Then based off of that, we come up with the content plan in order to get better ranking for those keywords. Then we do the distribution towards so via social media. Oftentimes we'll get an email from our clients, Mike at client.com versus Mike at webmarketing123 is a lot more impactful. We reach out to these folks, hey, looks like your readers would stand to benefit from this content. There's strategic links within that content that point back to the website. And folks are honestly going to link to this because it's value-added content. So that's how we start to use content in order to get better ranking for the terms that make sense for the business. And again, in that new playbook, you need to optimize for sales and return on investment, and not vanity types of metrics like hits to my website or just simply raw leads. And a big issue we find with folks is they don't know the natural rate at which people go through their conversion process from raw lead to marketing qualified. And these don't necessarily need to be your exact way of looking at your sales funnel. But you most definitely, if you're doing a B2B lead gen campaign, you have conversion rates. It's just a matter of knowing what they are right now and is that good or bad. And you should optimize at each stage to see exactly how much business am I going to get out of that based off of increasing people coming to the website via. And again, look at your various channels as levers, right? I got SEO, I pull that lever. I got PPC, I pull that one. But it all should be based off of how many raw leads, how many sales qualified leads do we need to get in order to get actual business results based off this endeavor. And oftentimes what we'll do is we'll work with folks and we'll say, here's how much money you're missing by not doing SEO and PPC, and use that as a business case in order to get the attention of senior leadership to say, okay, you know what, this is a problem, and we've missed our quarterly goals for the last 2 quarters. It might make sense in order to get a second opinion and see exactly whether or not you guys can deliver. And again, tracking it all the way through the end of the funnel. So we have this attribution tool that's able to work with Salesforce and Marketo and Eloqua, that's able to say, all right, here are the keyword. You got keywords in one column, sources in another, and dollars in the last column. We have that capability in order to report on that. And so it just makes sense to identify what are the keywords that are leading to pipeline paying customers, and then optimize around those themes and keywords in order to get more of that type of revenue. So a couple case studies towards the end here, and I know I said I was going to try to fit in some time for some life site analysis examples, but I know we got a couple minutes left, so let's just go through a couple of these case studies. And again, we'll offer a free consultation for any of the folks that want to take advantage of it. And we'll walk through, hey, how are you doing on SEO? How are you doing on paid search? Let's get a second opinion on this stuff. AppDynamics is one of those companies that reached out. We did SEO, paid search, content creation. A big goal that they wanted to do, and they cared about the vanity metrics on the front end. And we got them to shift that mentality. It wasn't about hits to your website. It was about return on investment. And through SEO, paid search, and content, we pulled those 3 levers. We were able to see some pretty significant results, both in the way of increases in organic traffic and 500% estimated return on investment, which ultimately worked out to a 10x return on marketing investment. And the only way we could say this is by working with their system. So their setup was, I believe, Marketo and Salesforce. So getting the systems talking to one another, pulling in keywords and sources, tying it to individuals so that you can make this type of assessment based off of your marketing dollars. So we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap. And again, if you want to get a second opinion on how your campaigns perform, maybe you're working with an agency right now and are questioning, hey, am I getting the best results? Are they proactive versus reactive? Or maybe you're, you've done the best you can, you've gotten as far as you can. It might make sense to get a second opinion. What we would need is a couple of your top keywords, a couple competitors, and what are your objectives? Is it those vanity metrics? Yeah, I just care about traffic. I know we want to get to return on investment. We're not there yet. Again, we're in a unique position. We've talked to a lot of you at various stages, and we help you kind of evolve your kind of strategic digital marketing plan. So if this is of an interest to you, feel free to reach out at results@webmarketing123 or give us a call. I'd love to talk to you. Again, my name is Mike Turner. I'm the Director of Business Development. I'd love to talk to you. Feel free to reach out. And I do thank you for your time and for your trust, and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Bye.